Hey everyone, welcome back to Pretending with Dice. As always, I'm your host and game master, AJ. Just another quick intro this time around before we get into today's episode. Firstly, I want to say a huge thanks to everybody who tuned in on the last episode for our sort of more audio drama kind of styled episode. I had a bunch of really nice comments, and it just means a lot that people enjoyed it. So big thank you to all of you for who reached out and said some nice things. It's made my week. But I guess the main reason for this intro is to announce that from this episode going forward, we are upgrading our game. We are moving from first edition Star Trek Adventures, which has been a whole lot of fun for us over the last couple of years, and stretching all the way back to pre-release when we played with the boys from Spotlight back in 2017, which doesn't feel like 7 or 8 years ago to me, but I don't know where that time's gone. We are from this point on upgrading to the brand new second edition of Star Trek Adventures. At the time of me recording this, I've just received my physical copy of the book, but we've been playing from the PDF copy for the last little bit as soon as that was released, and it's a really fun upgrade to the game, and that's what we're going to be doing going forward. You're not going to, I think, notice a huge amount of difference straight away, at least in this episode or the next one or two. No spoilers, obviously, but some of the more major changes in rules we haven't quite run into during gameplay yet. But yes, suffice to say, we're really enjoying the new upgrades to the system, and it's a good game. Check it out. Okay, so with that rambling intro sort of over, let's not wait any longer. Let's get into today's episode. Enjoy. Captain's Log, Stardate 55118.8. The Tenzing has successfully completed the crossing through the Gateway region to the interior of the Bermuda Cluster, safely making our way through the encircling subspace storms that have cut off this part of the galaxy for the past 600 years. An incredible achievement, unfortunately marred by the situation we now find ourselves in. Our fellow expedition ship, the USS Nelson, unbeknownst to us at the time, suffered catastrophic damage from an encounter with a subspace string during the crossing, the very same subspace string which we aboard the Tenzing were lucky to narrowly avoid. The damage to the Nelson is severe, but worse than that are the casualties they suffered. Captain Richards was critically injured in the incident, but is thankfully now recovering in the Tenzing sickbay. Unfortunately, a great many members of her crew were not so lucky. My own crew and that of the USS Auckland have begun rescue and recovery operations. Hopefully we can salvage the situation and begin the exploratory work which we came here to perform, but for now, all our thoughts are with the crew of the Nelson. Okay, I think we will open in sickbay. This is, even despite the number of people who were in here just a couple of days ago, but when the Tenzing itself encountered the subspace string, this really does feel busy in here. Mm-hmm. This is not the sort of, a few bumps and scrapes, minimal major injuries. There were quite a lot of major injuries that came across from the Nelson. They went through quite the ringer in their violent passage through the last part of the gateway to get into the system here. I think as we join you, Captain Richards is no longer in sickbay. at the end of the last episode, we saw obviously that he was here checking on Captain Richards after her surgery, but I think a little bit of time has passed since then. So for now, it is you, Ireela, and your staff, and all of the remaining injured in here.
And 2 very traumatized cadets, probably.
Yeah, I think actually this would maybe be a good chance to sort of... Because would you be keeping an eye on them, do you think? And just sort of... Because this is a major incident compared to, like... As much as, like, the previous thing was, like, a major incident and they were dropped into it, this is a lot of casualties that are, like...
I mean...
Yeah.
Yeah, Ireela would be trying to look after them, but there's also serious injuries that she needs to treat.
Yeah. I think, can I just get an insight security check from you then, please?
Yeah.
Not in one specific instance, but maybe just as a sort of representative keeping an eye on them check, if you know what I mean, to sort of see if you are kind of picking up their general feeling throughout. And I think for you this is a big difficulty one as well, because of your empathic ability in that. You're busy, but when it comes to like how people are coping with certain things, especially emotionally, you've got a little bit of an up. You've got a little bit of a step up.
Okay.
I was 7 and a 1, so yeah, that's 3 successes from you. So that's 2 points of momentum.
Good enough.
I think we had one point of momentum. Oh no, more than 1 point of momentum from previously when the ship arrived in the system. But some time has passed since then, so I think we can gone back to 0, and now you've gained 2. So I guess whoever's keeping track of momentum, we have it 2 at the moment. Yeah. Okay. Well, that critical success then, I mean, that on its own, I think I would have given you this, but they are, I think, a little shaken, both of them. The Vulcan is maybe hiding it a lot better than your nephew is, but they are maintaining a professional demeanour, and they are getting on with the work that needs to be done. I mean, safe to say this is definitely more than they were expecting, especially so soon into the placement. I mean, it's more than anybody was expecting.
Yeah.
But they're handling it quite well, I think. They're shaken, and they are definitely probably going to need to talk about this at some point. This is quite a stressful situation, but they're handling it as well as can be expected for people who are still really in training. But there's a reason they were got this far in their training as it is. They are, by all accounts, they seem to be the right people to be doing the job in the future.
And it's not like sending them out would be any better for them emotionally in the long run anyway. No. So it's a bit of a sort of in at the deep end kind of thing that in some situations is a good way of doing it. I mean, this maybe is an extreme example of that, but they are... Fortunately, they had an incident a day and a half ago.
Yeah.
So...
Well, actually, yeah, maybe that was almost a good way of doing it. Yeah. I believe you even said at the time, like, okay, this could have been a lot worse, but you've seen how bad it can get, kind of thing. Well, something worse to those effects, I think. Yeah. And well, here's really how bad it has gotten, sort of thing. So that maybe was a good thing that they had a sort of slightly easier go of it, while having maybe a day and a half to kind of deal with that, and then all of a sudden it's like, and here we go again, and oh no, there's a lot more it's a lot more seriously injured people this time around. But yeah, I mean, it's not just you. They haven't really been like left to their own devices, I would say. You've got your staff here as well, who are also taking part in kind of making sure that they're doing the right thing, handling patients the right way, and also that they're not showing any signs of like about to freak out or anything like that. It's not just you who's keeping an eye on them, it's your team is as well.
Again, they'll be on the least serious.
For sure, yeah. I mean, they're not qualified to be put into surgery or anything like that at all.
And we don't have enough staff to just have them observe.
No.
There's this many people come in at once.
That's true.
So...
Yeah, I mean, and the range of injuries that you're getting from the people from the Nelson is fairly wide as well. I would say it's worse than the ones that happened on the Tenzing, and there's a lot more very serious injuries, and you have lost some people since they've, the people who are the worst of the worst. Not everybody has made it. They're able to, I think, be put onto the ones that you think are appropriate for their level of training and that, and there are a fair few people who are injured to the level where it's like, well, a cadet can handle this sort of thing. and you're not going to have any concerns over patient care or anything. So, yeah. Their hands are as full as everybody else's are here, I think.
I think at this point, pretty much most of the sickbay staff are pretty exhausted.
Yes. I think you've got a big enough department that really, like, it was all hands on deck for the first few hours, just based on the sheer number. But you're at the point now where it's probably, I want to say, maybe not a day, but like it might be approaching a day has passed, I think, since then. And you're able to start winding people down and letting certain people go with an eye towards, like, okay, have a few hours off and, come in on the start of the next shift rotation and things like that.
Yeah.
You've been able to sort of clear the backlog of the very minorly injured.
We're mostly on to monitoring the people that need to stay in sickbay.
Yes, that's kind of the level we're at. Like the worst of it is over. There's definitely some people here though who are going to be here for a while, and yeah, you're confident that, like, okay, things are quietening down a little bit now, and now we're into like the more longer term sort of medical care rather than like emergency mode, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a long way around to saying then that you are, I guess, still sort of doing your rounds. I think have you been in here, I guess, would be a question. Have you been here the whole time?
Yep.
It's been a long day for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think I've probably over my second straight shift in a row.
Yeah, definitely.
So maybe doing one last round and then go to fall over.
You've been up for maybe 30 hours, and it's been a busy 30 hours. So yeah, you're sort of doing another kind of lap of the sick bay. You've not been in here doing laps for the whole time, kind of thing. You've had some time in your office to kind of log everything as you're going in that, and your second in command, Dr. Wilkes, has kind of made noises towards you in the vein of like, look, you should go to sleep. We've got it here. You look. He's diplomatically saying, like, go to sleep. Like, leave this in our hands. Come back. Come back fresh, sort of thing. We got this. But you decide to do one more kind of loop around just before you head out. On one of the bio beds, there is a Tellarite who, at some point during the day, you have realised was a member of the Nelson's Ensign Games team. He was fairly badly injured. When he was brought in, he had a piece of metal embedded in his shoulder, which your team has managed to remove, and he's now sitting up in the bio bed. He's awake and he's looking, I think, heading back towards what you would consider the sort of standard Tellarite level of grumpiness, but not like in pain kind of grumpiness. He sort of almost catches your eye as you approach.
Doctor, how long I got to be in here?
That depends how quickly you heal.
I'll be fine. I just need to get back to work, I'll walk off.
Well, be that as it may, there's still assessments going on. It'll be a little while yet. Hopefully not too long, though.
Well, you've patched me up just fine. The best place for me is just back in engineering.
Ireela's thinking to herself, I mean, there's not much you're going to be able to do at the moment, even if you are back, so...
I think you're kind of picking up, now that you're close to him, I won't make you roll for this, because he's not really guarding his emotions. You're not picking up just the grumpiness from him. There is a little bit of a low level of sadness that you're not used to picking up from Tellarites in general. They're generally fairly brash, and they say what they mean. But he's clearly not really... He's sort of he's burying some stuff here, and yeah, you do know from your talks with the captain and other people over the course of the last day that the Nelson did lose its chief engineer in the accident.
Ireela sighs and grabs a stool and sits down.
What do you mean? In your personal opinion, what do you reckon? I mean, can I get out of here?
Let me have another check of that shoulder.
Can I get... I think this won't be a difficult check for you. This will be a difficulty 1 or a reason medicine. So you're looking for 15 or under. 9 and 8, that's 2 successes. So again, another point of momentum. You pick up. You definitely. You kind of. You sort of. I guess tentatively go to sort of rotate it. The sort of let's check the kind of movement range of it and that. And you're keeping a quite close eye on his facial expression as you do this, and you definitely see him wince quite badly, but like cover it as to be like putting on like a I'm not injured, nothing wrong with me kind of front. But it's between your empathic senses and your medical knowledge and the fact that you already were a little bit suspicious that he's not really wanting to be here. Yeah, you definitely pick up he is covering up how much pain he's still in.
So I put rest his arm and shoulder back down in a relaxed position. I'm just like, well, you're not going just now. And no, don't even try and argue with me about it.
Ah, come on, what use am I just lying here?
You'd feel better if you could keep busy. Yeah?
Aye, I guess.
And when we discharge you, can I trust that you're not going to do anything to further aggravate that shoulder?
Aye, I mean, I'll keep it strapped up if that's what you want, Doc. I mean, I've got another arm, haven't I?
He really does not believe him.
No, I mean, you're right to not believe him.
It's like, you can, but will you remember to without injuring yourself again?
Well, that's a good question, but yeah, he's... you don't believe that he is as concerned about his own welfare at the moment as, he's kind of itching to, I don't know, non-specifically get back to work, but like, what is there to get back to work to at this exact moment is, that's up in the air.
He's trying to run mentally.
Yeah.
Okay, so the problem you have with waiting is having to lie there and think and not be able to do anything, right?
I guess.
Excellent. I can easily fix that problem for you.
He looks, I think, probably a little bit surprised at this comment and intrigued.
Fine, we just keep you sedated till you're healed.
Wait, what? No, hey, no, hey, I'm fine, no need for that.
Do you want to lie here in boredom with your brain overthinking?
No.
Then let's try a light sedative. That'll give you a few more hours sleep, and we can see how you're doing then, okay?
Fine. Go jab me then.
He sort of puts his head back on his pillow and sort of like leans it away as if to say like, go on, stick me with the injector like in his neck.
Yep. Give him a shot of sedatives in his neck.
And he immediately looks a little bit woozy and then falls asleep.
I go and warn Dr. Wilkes that he might be a little bit testy in about 6 hours.
Ensign Yoitz, yes. Been a bit of a problem patient, hasn't he? Don't worry, Doctor, I'll keep an eye on him.
And now you realise going to go back to her quarters and fall over for 8 hours.
Yeah, I feel like it's almost a case of like, but by the time you're like out of sick bay and have made it to quarters, like the come down is in progress, and you basically just like collapse on your bed just without even anything.
In full uniform.
Yeah.
Haven't stopped to grab a drink or anything, just falls over.
Just face down, just like, I'm down. Yeah. But I think well-earned rest, because it's been a busy... your department, almost the busiest day out of everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the department that can't really take breaks.
We're going to cut, at this point, I think, to space. More specifically, the upper hull of the Nelson saucer section, where we find Bonge, Pherea, and Johnny in EV suits making their way across the hull to perform some maintenance work. I think at this point in the day, security hasn't got a lot of security detail work to be doing, so they've been just kind of seconded to help out where they can, which is why Johnny's here.
Extra hands. Yeah, just extra hands.
Yeah. So yes, as I said, we are in space, and The trio are slowly spacewalking their way across to one of the Nelson's thruster pods, which has been determined to not be functioning properly.
I have the suspicion that Pherea does get like Worf, like the motion sickness in the AV suits. She's just totally. Not enjoying any of this.
Oh, I feel crap. Just keep your head down. Try and look down at the hull. Just take one step at a time.
Yeah, watch how you go. It takes a little while getting acclimatized to it out here. I know it's a bit disorientating, but just don't look out at the vast emptiness of space, and you'll be all right.
Johnny, I looked at the space. What do I do?
Bond, come on, man. You're a seasoned engineer, right? You've done this before, right?
Yeah, just my head was spinning there for a second.
You see him just sort of shake it out a little bit.
Okay, no, I'm good.
Sorry, I didn't mean to throw you guys there. I shouldn't mention, you know what.
The void.
Shh, Bond.
Empty black.
I really regret mentioning that. What were we out here? The engineering. You guys know what you're talking about when it comes to engineering. Let's get to that check.
He pulls out like a pad, like I guess like a non-touch screen kind of like external use pad.
We obviously don't know the full story, but even with their low level of emergency power, these thruster pods should have worked. They're designed to pretty much be foolproof. We'll find out when they weren't firing.
There's maybe a caught wire or a burnt out section. Maybe that's what's the problem.
Yeah. Okay, you take that side. We'll open up the casing locks.
Alright.
I'll keep my eyes peeled for anything unusual. I don't know that I'm going to be much help with the engineering stuff. I'll be real with you.
We might need your extra muscle for pulling the hatches.
Say the word.
Okay, so I guess Pherea and Johnny, you guys sort of take a few steps around the side of this thruster pod, which, you know, it's a big panel in the hull with sort of like, it almost got like a rocket engine sticking out of it, at least the nozzle anyway, and but there's a sort of framing kind of panel around the side which can be popped open to sort of give access to the internal systems, and on opposite corners of each other there are locking bolt things that need to be turned to unlock it. I don't think we need this to be a check, but I guess Pherea, you sort of position yourself, you look up, and Bond kind of gives you a nod and says,
okay, on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Turn the bolts, and there's a sort of slight hiss of escaping, not really air, but like, you know, just sort of pressure, and the panel kind of pops up slightly from the kind of, it's no longer flush with the ship, and just sort of hinges itself open, and you get a look at the sort of maintenance bay of this thruster. The thruster itself is probably, I want to say, 3 meters across. It's just a single thruster. There's quite a lot of them arrayed around the circumference of the saucer section, and then in other places as well, top and bottom. And, you know, each thruster itself is, like I say, it's pretty much a rocket engine nozzle. Yeah, now you can sort of see into the internals. The Excelsior class is an older class of ship. You know, has been around for over 100 years, this type of ship, but they've been through quite a lot of upgrades and refits over the years. The Nelson itself, you don't know the full service history of, but it's clearly been through refits and stuff within the last 5-10 years. You know, so you're not looking at kind of old tech here. It's an older space frame, it's an older type of ship, but they've managed to kind of keep key systems kind of up to scratch in terms of like usability and like keeping them in line with how the Tenzing works and everything. I mean, the Tenzing itself is as a space frame is 20 years old at this point, so it's not, nothing is a brand new ship here. But yeah, the first look inside the compartment, and Johnny, I'd say it's probably a little bit impenetrable to you.
Mm-hmm. I think Johnny, for his part, is kind of observing as best he can and trying to absorb any information he possibly can, just because this is one of those Starfleet things of like, got to be a jack of all trades, got to try and learn everything.
Yeah. Doesn't hurt to
survival training.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt to have a little bit of experience in seeing different things. Okay, so I think as for Pherea, can I get a I think this would be a reason engineering check. You're looking for 15 or under on difficulty 3, I think. You can use momentum to buy more dice, though.
We have 3 momentum.
Yeah, I might as well use one.
Go for it.
Yeah. So buying 1 extra dice then.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's go for it.
That is a 2 and a 18.
Not a bad start. What about that extra dice?
That is a 3.
3? Awesome. Okay, so under normal circumstances, that would be 2 out of the 3 successes you need. However, I'm just looking at Pherea's character sheet here, and you have as one of your focuses power systems, which I think applies here. So that would increase your critical range from just natural 1s up to a 4, which I think is going to make both the 2 and the 3 that you rolled critical. So you've actually rolled 4 successes here, meaning you're going to immediately get that point of momentum back.
The momentum back. Nice.
That's kind of the fun thing about focuses. You can really turn a situation around. Okay. So you and Bonge take a few minutes kind of going over the whole system, checking out all the different kind of components to find out what's working, what isn't. The actual thruster itself is mostly undamaged, and it seems to be connected to the fuel supply with no issues and everything. But what you do find is that the control box, the little sort of the electronic side of things, the chip that takes the signal from the bridge where this is normally controlled from, has shorted out, possibly as part of the ship-wide kind of overload. And basically, yeah, the distributor chips are fried as well. And yeah, basically, the chips need replacing to get this to work again, is what you find.
That's a simple fix. I like nice little fixes. You just have to replace the chip. That's good. Bunge?
Yeah.
Have you got a chip?
He pulls this sort of pack out and...
I need a distributor one.
Here we go.
He sort of bounces his way over, magnetic boots kind of... and
the image of a bouncing along Ferengi in zero gravity is really fun.
And he's a little, he's a little short and stocky as well, so it's kind of a little bit of a sort of squat, like... spacesuit and things. Yeah, it's kind of funny.
Well, here you go.
Hands you over the chip.
Alright, let's get this working.
I don't think this will be a check, because this is just like, okay, you found the problem, and you're able to just pop out the old chip, which even like holding it up to the light, you can see it's just burnt. And you pop in the other one, and the panel lights up, which it hadn't before. And you're able to reinitialize the thruster pod.
Job done. Got it.
Alright, well, on to the next one, I guess.
Let's hope they're all as easy as this one.
Yeah.
Johnny, you've been kind of a little bit sort of standing around, I guess, at this, sort of looking about, and you kind of get an interesting view looking up at the sort of around the Nelson. I mean, where would your focus be, I guess? Actually, I should say, before I say, like, this is what you're looking at, I want you to tell me what you're looking at.
I think knowing Johnny's habits of kind of going to 10 forward and looking out the window, he's going to have tried to pay attention to the engineering work, but ultimately will have ended up kind of just observing the splendor. And if there was any particular stellar bodies that are of interest, then that's probably where his focus would have fallen.
Yeah, okay.
I think Johnny's generally just a little bit kind of, not bemused, but kind of slightly amused, maybe?
Yeah.
By his compatriots being like, oh, space scary, where he's kind of like, the splendor, just, it's great to get out here.
Yeah. I think what it is like, it's a sort of thing of like, you're out here with a couple of nerds who are used to working in engineering and like in like ductways and Jeffries tubes and things and that, and I don't want to say a couple of nerds, but that kind of, that kind of is the thing. You're just sort of out here to help where you can, but like it quite quickly becomes clear that like, yeah, you don't know anything about like the circuitry and things behind engines and stuff, and like you can't really. Well, as soon as the hatch opened fairly easily, so there wasn't really anything for you to do there, and you're pretty much just hanging around while they trace down circuit paths and things like that. So
standard security patrol kind of stuff.
You kind of notice. Definitely, you notice Pherea kind of not really looking up, just kind of head down, looking on her work and that and everything. Bond just sort of is helping out, but he doesn't look quite as ill at ease as Pherea does with the kind of outside work. But yeah, you're able to look up and sort of get a good look at the gas giant that the expedition ships are now in orbit around. Kind of glancing up, at first you see that the Auckland and the Tenzing have both kind of taken up positions sort of in quite close proximity to the Nelson. Not as close as like, oh, you can jump from one to the other, because you definitely would not get where you want to go, sort of thing. But they're close enough that you can sort of see them, fairly well in detail and everything. Still probably a couple of kilometers actually between each of them, but that's close really in space terms, especially considering the size of the ships, sort of thing.
Okay.
I mean, the Tenzing alone is like nearly 500 meters long, so it's pretty close. But yeah, you get a sort of good sort of look at the gas giant world that you're in orbit of, and it's not particularly light out in this sort of part of the system. You're a fair way away from the star itself. Not so, you're not like in the gap between star systems or anything, but the sun is a little dimmer out here, but you're still able to sort of see the kind of blue sort of swirling. It's kind of like a dark turquoise swirling maelstrom of clouds that is below you. You do, as you look at it, see kind of hints of lighter blue where the sun is catching the cloud tops and such, but it definitely is sort of a bit of a kind of roiling kind of mass of clouds and things, and it's a big planet. This is sort of comparable in size to like Jupiter, which you're fairly well versed, I think, in the solar system. So your immediate thought is like, oh, I don't wonder if there's any moons around, but you can't see any to the naked eye. That doesn't mean there aren't any, but you get possibly the most kind of unobstructed view of this planet that maybe outside of the other people who have been out on the outsides of the ship, you're getting the most close-up view of anybody, because everybody else has been looking at it on screens and things or out of windows, but you're just a small transparent faceplate away from being out in space with this planet. So yeah, it's a quite awe-inspiring view, and as I say, of a pretty large planet, and it's
I think Johnny will whistle to himself just in awe of this, just like wow, damn, and look at the others finishing up their work. Look, has he got an itinerary or something? There's got to be something, I guess, on his own.
I think you've got like a wrist-mounted kind of screen pad thing. Did they have them in like First Contact with us? Yeah. You've got like an itinerary. I think as a group you were probably given it, and yeah, this is maybe not the first stop on your outside trip. You've been out here for maybe half an hour, 40 minutes or so. But you have assigned to you 5 more thruster pods to check on the upper hull here before you're in your itinerary.
As I can hear them finishing up, then I'll call over and just be like,
"Oh, good job there. Hopefully you're getting used to this. I mean, you're missing out on a hell of a view. All you need to do is look up, but I don't want to distract you from your work."
Yeah, it's real pretty. Yeah.
Well, let's move on, I suppose. Looks like you guys have done a good job on that first one.
Johnny, can you give me a hand getting this panel down?
Oh, yep, sure.
As Pherea's kind of packing up her tools, I guess the two of you are able to close the housing back over the thruster, and the trio of you begin the slow walk to the next thruster pod.
It's the dumbest reference, but I've just got visions of self-sealing stem bolts as the sealing mechanism. Not that it was ever really specified what they do.
They seal themselves.
Makes sense now. They close panels, right?
Okay, so given that a little bit of time has passed since the ships of the expedition arrived in system and found the Nelson. Where would we find Rai at this point, do you think?
Sick bay is, in full crisis mode.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what the science department would really be doing.
Yeah, the Nelson itself, like you say, has become a kind of, as soon as it was stopped, and as soon as it was found, it has very quickly become a medical and engineering focused issue at this point.
Yeah, maybe while everything's going on to try and recover what they can of the Nelson and the crew and all that stuff, maybe we are doing some scans of the gas giant that the ship is in the orbit of.
Yeah, totally can be. Yeah.
See if we can find anything out. Sick bay sorted, engineering sorted. What can we do? Let's look at what's in front of us. Let's get some information about the gas giant, because we are in a new system, so we should start doing what the mission actually is about and actually cataloguing and scanning and making record of what we see.
For sure, yeah. I don't think there's anything wrong with you saying, like, okay, well, look, this is not our area of expertise in this kind of situation. Maybe the first couple of hours you and your department were able to sort of pitch in and help out with finding survivors and things like that, but that's kind of over and done with now. Everybody's been found or accounted for is not alive anymore and such.
So now we can go back to what our actual mission charter is.
Yeah, so
the only department that really can at the moment.
Yeah, you're the only department who really doesn't have a huge role to play in like salvage operations here, but you do have a big giant sensor array on the ship that is, the main, one of the main reasons for coming out here was like, well, we want to see what's out here, and you have the staff and you have the equipment, which is not in use at the moment, to be able to go like, well, while this is happening, we're going to start our work over here, kind of thing, So, yeah, okay.
Yeah, it sounds like a plan.
Yeah.
I think Rai probably is going to be doing two things. One, he's going to be basically working with some of his team to start surveying the surrounding regions of space, but he's also going to be running some scans, a local scan of the gas giant.
Yep, totally doable. I think we could split this then into like the first thing is like you giving orders to your team, like the people in stellar cartography and such, to be like, okay, get cataloguing. Now we're through the worst of the storm.
Yeah.
Do your thing, kind of thing, and that would be something to check back in on, because it's not like an instant job. But you yourself are personally going to then take the lead on the gas giant thing. So I think I don't think I need you to make a check for your department.
Okay.
Although I guess maybe we could just have somebody roll for the ship's, I guess, sensors science department to just get a kind of a guide for me as to like how progress sort of starts with the team, I guess.
Okay, rolling now.
Yeah, you mean for 16 or under?
That's a 15 and a 17, so one success.
Yeah, okay. So progress is being made slowly, but it is a little bit slow going to begin with, is how I'd put that. But like, this is something to check you back in with later.
Yeah.
You would maybe get a report towards the end of the day from stellar cartography as to what's, what they've been able to do. But you personally then, where are you working from for this?
I imagine that I would have gone down and spoken to stellar cartography in person after finishing up my time assisting with locating the survivors from the Nelson and helping out in that regard. So Rai would have been down stellar cartography, had a conversation with everyone there, reassured them that, everything is being handled now by the other departments. It's now our time to start surveying this new region of space. So I've gone down there, briefed them, asked them to get cracking, and then I would probably have gone back up. Once I'd seen that they had stuff going and everything was working, I'd have gone back up to the bridge to do my scans of the gas giant from my terminal on the bridge.
Sure. Okay. Yep. So you've spoken to Lieutenant Che and his team down in astrometrics, stellar cartography, same dev.
I'm guessing if I come back to the bridge, should I relay that to the captain? Just to let him know that we've actually started surveying the area.
You can do. I think it's more just kind of like the captain is. He's not. Well, firstly, I'll say at this point in the day, I think I would say that the captain's not on the bridge at the moment. Maybe at this point, like there's kind of a vague thing of like he expects like you guys are sort of expected to kind of take a bit of your own initiative in this sort of stuff. Especially now we're here, and like the kind of standing sort of status of the ship is like assisting. We're on station in the system. We've made it here. We're currently assisting the Nelson, but he doesn't need you to. He doesn't need individual departments to be constantly checking in unless it's like
something urgent.
Yeah, that kind of like something in need of like a command level decision. Whereas this, I think, is very much like you are of a level where, and as the sort of chief science officer, where you have the authority to not have to be like, Captain, can I start using the sensors for this or whatever? You can off your own sort of back be like, right, okay, well, I'm going to take the lead and start doing stuff.
Okay. Yeah, in that case, I will come up to the bridge and just begin my scans of the gas giant.
Okay, yeah, maybe this is a multi-step process then, because this is the first sort of major science scans that you're doing now you're into the cluster. So there's some calibration, I think, needed in some of the instruments. So I think the first step in this is probably going to be a series of very similar roles, I will say. But we're just kind of establishing, it's stuff that needs to be done now you're here, if that makes sense. Oh. And I think the very first thing to do would be to kind of establish a baseline level of the local subspace disturbances now that you're kind of out of the storm into what you assume is going to be fairly similar kind of standard levels now that you're, kind of into the star systems of the cluster. With an eye towards like, okay, well, we know what we can sort of, we know what the baseline is, so we'll know what to filter out when we're doing readings of things.
Yeah.
I think this again will be a difficulty 2, because you do have equipment for it, but it is also a little bit out of the usual in terms of like, you don't have to do this.
Sync.
Yeah, well, no, just you don't have to do this in regular, outside the cluster space, so this isn't something you've had to do too many times before. So you're, I think, here spending a little bit of time, maybe up to, because you'd have to take readings at certain intervals, I think, just to kind of establish your baseline and that.
Yeah.
Maybe you spend an hour and a half, something like that, just doing kind of scans and readings of the levels of kind of underlying subspace disturbance that are happening throughout the system. You're using the sensor array to take readings not just in your immediate vicinity around the orbit of the planet, but also closer to the sun and further out from the sun, and just kind of trying to establish a little bit of a kind of baseline, like, okay, this is the level where it is in this system. You might have to do this in every other system you visit as well, but like, as this is the first one, you definitely need to do it here.
Sure. So 2d20, yeah?
2d20, reason science, I think, here. So 17 or under you're going for here. And if somebody else wants to roll for the ship, we need 16 or under on 1d20 from somebody else.
Commencing dice roll for subspace, baseline, and calibration.
Dice roll commenced.
That is a 2 and a 17.
2 and 17, okay. So you were aiming for 17 and under, weren't you? So you do have your 2 successes there. I'm looking at your focuses now, and I don't think there's any way you can apply any of these to up your critical thing in this particular instance.
Okay.
So you've got your 2 successes, that's a success. Could somebody else roll 1d20 for the ship then? Looking for 16 or under.
That is a 14.
14? Okay, so that's 3 successes. There's 1 more in the momentum pool. So yeah, over the course, like I say, about an hour and a half, you're able to kind of log like a kind of new normal for what space is like here for the sensors, and kind of establish a model to like kind of increase the accuracy of any readings that you might do in this system, to kind of filter out the sort of the ambient kind of amount of distortion, so you'd be able to see what is something of interest and what is just, and discount anything that's just like, oh no, that's just what space is like here. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yep, that makes sense.
Yeah, to sort of bring things up to like, okay, here's the new calibrated baseline of the sensors, sort of thing, for at least for this system. So that's kind of your first step, and this is sort of, as I say, taking a little bit of time, but like, this I think is a necessary kind of part of like, well, we're going to be doing some science in this system. We want to make sure all of our instruments are as accurate as they can be, kind of thing, which makes sense.
Yeah, we do it thoroughly and we do it right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Johnny's out there going, try not to throw up, guys.
just trying to keep them under control.
Yeah.
Most.
Nothing. Nobody wants anybody throwing up, hurling. Nobody wants to hurl in a spacesuit.
Let's not gross ourselves out.
Yeah. Okay, so next step here, I think, is going to be doing I think almost this would just be a standard planetary scan here.
Yes.
And again, I think this would take a little bit of time, because standard procedure would be to be, like, as the ship orbits the planet, to just basically be kind of getting, like, a continual scanning slice of the planet, and as you go round it, you're eventually ending up with, like, a full globe of data, if that makes sense.
So we're looking at the class of the planet, what it's made of, atmospheric composition, any anomalies inside the atmosphere, that sort of stuff.
Yeah. So the ships of the expedition are in, I think, what we would call like a standard orbit here around this planet.
Okay.
The planet is, I think I said previously, about Jupiter-sized, so quite a lot bigger than Earth. I think a complete orbit around the planet at this altitude is going to take the Tenzing 6 hours. I know that seems like a long time, but just the International Space Station going around Earth takes 90 minutes.
Yeah.
This is a much bigger planet, and you're at much higher altitude, so orbits are slower. So, yeah, I think a full orbit would take you 6 hours.
The thing is, any information that stellar cartography come out with can back up anything that we get from this scan, because it'll encompass not just the gas giant, but everything else in this region if it's a planetary body.
Yeah.
So this will be like complementary data to what the guys down in Stellar find.
Yeah, totally. So yeah, if we say an orbit is 6 hours, then between the like kind of initial hour and a half spent doing sort of calibration stuff and then scanning as the ship is making its sort of first full orbit around the planet, I think that's going to take pretty much your whole shift. I think, you know, this is your day basically.
Okay, shall I roll for the scan then?
Yeah, I think again this would just be a difficulty 2 reason science. The ship is kind of built for this, but this is a lot of data, and it's, you know, over the course of a whole sort of day, and just taking into account, like, okay, this is a sort of focused task sort of thing. So difficulty 2 reason science from you, if I could.
Okay, here we go.
17 or under.
We have a 14 and a 9.
Okay, that's your 2 successes. If somebody wants to roll for the ship, we can see we get a 3rd success for momentum.
That is 13.
13. So yeah, that's another success. Where are we at in the momentum pool at this point? Because I think we're probably at about 4, right? 4 or 5?
Yes. We're at 4. Is that the 5th one?
That might be the 5th one, so... Yeah.
I have a question, but not necessarily one that requires momentum, because this is still in the realms of what I'm doing in terms of scanning.
Mm-hmm.
In the wake of the incident with the Nelson, by this point we're mostly aware that it was the subspace string that tore the ship a new one.
Yeah, I think, to be honest, I actually think that was almost something that could have been, like, without much investigation, that could have been assumed, and then with not a lot of talk or whatever, that could have been, yeah. My question is, at this point where we're sort of cleaning up the mess, as it were, what's happened, would there be anybody on the ship that's doing any kind of metallurgical analysis on bits of the hull to, like, I don't know, research into how better to protect ships from that kind of destructive force going forward? You can, if you want, task one of your department to, like, go out there and get some scans and things. In terms of protecting people from this kind of, protecting ships from this sort of thing, I don't think, I mean, they're not an unknown phenomenon. As we know, it appeared on TNG. They are rare enough that it's not usually been an issue. Obviously, the difference here being that you guys were heading through...
We had to go through one.
Yeah, you had to go through a pretty much unprecedented subspace storm to even get into the cluster. Hence why you ran into one. However, they're kind of a little bit... like, you're not going to be able to come up with a fix here. It wouldn't hurt to get more data.
I would think that somebody would be doing a metallurgical analysis on parts of the hull that were hit by the string to try and gather more data that Starfleet and the boffins could use in future to, in far-flung years, maybe come up with a a way of making ship hulls a bit stronger to deal with this kind of thing.
Okay.
Better.
Well, you can send someone out to go get that. I'm going to tell you that they're not going to be able to make a hull strong enough.
No. Yes, that's fine. That's fine.
But it couldn't hurt to get the data.
So the scan's running. That's going to take the bulk of my shift.
Yeah.
To complete.
Just because physically the ship takes 6 hours to get around the planet, and that's how long it's going to take to do this in-depth scan.
So what I will do then is, while the scan's running, eventually Ray will probably step away, leave the scan running at his terminal, and he'll head back down to stellar cartography and see how the rest of his team are getting on.
Alright, so you enter and you find the team in there hard at work, being led by Lieutenant Che, who looks up as you come in. Ah, sir.
Lieutenant, how's it going down here?
It's slow progress, sir, but I think we have the layout of this system mapped, at least as accurately as we can hope for now. Of course, the longer you give us, the more data we'll have for you. But
absolutely.
He brings up on the main display kind of a fairly basic sort of diagram layout of the system in terms of. No, basic's not the right word. Like everything is kind of in place. Like as opposed to like a few hours before when you were still at warp and all you knew of the system was like, okay, we have this loose like optical astronomy that was done from outside the cluster. Now you have a map of the system, basically. They haven't started doing like a deep dive into like full scans of the sun or anything like that, but you kind of just have a layout of the system at your fingers now, which I think this is probably a good time for me to give that as a thing, because you've had them do the scans. So as I say, this is the system name is BC517. No name for it yet, and the star, by all accounts, should be a yellow main sequence star, not that different from the sun, but that's not really the case here. It is showing signs that it's lost significant mass. The emission spectra has shifted to be a little bit more towards the red end of the spectrum. The immediate thought that jumps to your head is that this is probably down to like the proximity of the system to the subspace storm itself. The whole reason why this was your first port of call in the cluster was like, well, one, it's right by the gateway region, but it's because it's so close. Basically, this is one of the most outermost systems of the cluster, so it's possible this is just getting that much extra shearing force from the storm that has been right on its doorstep for the last 600 years. So, yeah. The hologram zooms out from the sun to show 5 planets in the system, 3 inner planets which are marked as needing further scans, but temporarily marked as rocky/icy. But again, as he said, the more time you give him, the better the data's going to be. But those, at the moment, they think are pretty much terrestrial-style planets.
Class them with a breathable atmosphere.
None of them are showing a breathable atmosphere at the moment. And also, in addition to those 3 inner planets, there are 2 outer gaseous planets. The outermost one you are in orbit of at the moment, and there is a little blinking icon as you look in orbit of that outer one, of just showing the 3 ships of the expedition. Almost like a little "you are here" type thing. It doesn't say "you are here," but just it could do.
I want it to say that.
Sure. You go to a terminal and you type "we are here."
You are here.
You are here, and it appears in text next to that. And there's some appreciative noises from some of the team. Yeah. There are also various asteroid belts and rogue asteroids moving throughout the system, but that's not any different to really any other star system. Easy enough to avoid, but they have been picked up by the subspace scans as well. That is all the data you have at the moment. But as I say, the more time the crew of the Tenzing have to make their scans, the more detail you're going to get. And obviously the most detailed types of scans of the planets that are going to give the most data are ones that you're taking from orbit of each planet. So like the most data you have on any of these planets is the data that's currently being fed into this same system from your scan, basically, as you look. Like the one that is kind of getting the most detailed on the display is the one that you're in orbit of due to what you've kind of set in motion, sort of thing.
Yeah. So it all feeds together from my scan and from theirs.
Yeah. And then this is like going forward, this is kind of how it works, sort of thing, of like the ship in general, if you get into a system, is able to get a fairly broad overview. But if you want the most in-depth kind of look at anywhere, you're going to have to go there.
You have to travel to it and get closer. Ray takes in the current state of the scan and everything that's been catalogued so far. And he says, it's looking promising. Good job, Lieutenant. Everybody.
Thank you, sir.
Any issues with the equipment to report on, or has it all been okay so far?
All working fine, sir. It's great. There's upgrades we had at Earth are holding up pretty well.
Okay. Well, should anything change, just get in touch with me on comms and I'll come and see if I can help out.
Yes, sir. Of course.
Although, any more information you can pull on that star, and I'm pointing to the sun that's in the red spectrum.
At the moment, it's pretty much what you see is what we've got, sir. I'm sorry, but if you give us an hour, we can do a more focused scan on it. We'll be able to have some more data for you.
Yes, please, Lieutenant, if you could. I'd like to look at that one in a little bit more detail.
Of course, sir.
While I'm thinking about it, Lieutenant, I am running orbital scans of the gas giant that we're currently next to, so that data should complement what you're scanning for as well.
Yes, sir. We've been receiving that down here. It's it's all exciting stuff.
Excellent. I'll let you all carry on then. I'm going to check in with metallurgical scans, see how they're getting on.
Okay.
And with that, Ray leaves.
Sure. So this is feeling an awful lot to me like this is kind of an aftermath episode, like a little bit like we had after the first, kind of crisis type things, where we're sort of checking in to see what everybody's doing in the day. So I think to round things out, then, what is Murphy doing during all of this? We already know that you've kind of tasked.
Drinking coffee.
Well, there's that too. How much coffee are you having during this day?
I'm imagining she's only surviving on coffee because she's been probably helping organize the teams on the Nelson.
It's her 7th cup.
Probably.
I think probably in the immediate arrival kind of aftermath. I think the early kind of searching for survivors and things like that, maybe a lot of that fell to your team all kind of suiting up and going right, we don't, best leave the doctors ready in sickbay. We'll go over there and be the ones tagging people for transport and such.
Yeah, probably maybe doing the trauma tagging kind of thing, maybe.
Yeah. So I think, as I say, I think a lot of this search and rescue work has kind of fallen to the security department. I mean, you've got medically trained people on staff. You've got people who are a bit sort of certified as combat medics and things like that. And but I think in general, I'm sure Ireela would rather have all hands on deck in sick bay ready to go, and then be receiving wounded. If that makes sense. Would you agree with that?
I'm kind of imagining they've probably gone out with the medic, the first wave of medics kind of thing, and they're helping either free people that are maybe trapped or helping the medical staff to get them to transport, and then maybe doing structural checks, maybe make sure that parts of the ship are is I'm imagining there's corridors that have just got a emergency force field at the end and then space.
Yeah.
So they're probably closing off those areas.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Well, maybe we'll kind of use this sort of Murphy section then as kind of here's a wrap up of the day. Mm-hmm. What through the course of you doing your duties you found out.
Yeah.
So I think in terms of when it comes to the medical side, your team's beamed over and helped assess and figure out who's going to the Tenzing sick bay, who's going to the Auckland sick bay. The Nelson had its own medical teams there. Obviously, they were also a pretty big crew. They were, before the accident, 750 crew. Now they're down by a third now, just in terms of people who were killed. That's pretty grim, to be honest. But like,
yeah, they're probably stretched thin as well.
Yeah,
I'm imagining they're probably not all of them have maybe had access to medical equipment.
I think, but also safe to say that like sick bay in most of the ships is built to be like one of the sturdiest places on the ship. So it wasn't like the Nelson's medical staff was wiped out or anything. So they have been, doing the best they can until you guys turned up. So you maybe coordinate with them in the early hours of the rescue to sort of figure out this sort of like, okay, who's going to the Nelson, who's going to the Auckland, who's going to the Tenzing, who's going to the Auckland. And then in the process, with alongside the engineering teams, you start sort of assessing the kind of the state of the Nelson.
Yeah.
As you said, there's definitely, you find some parts of the ship that are like open to space and have emergency force fields in place. Mostly though, that's kind of on the lower engineering hull, the bit that's not the saucer. That took the worst of the kind of actual subspace string bit, and then it had the additional damage when the warp nacelle sheared off, and then the warp core exploded and everything. So the worst of the damage is definitely on that lower hull. Unfortunately, that's where all of the power systems and warp core, which is obviously the warp core's gone now, but all of the engineering, or the stuff that makes the ship go, is down there and kind of fucked up, sort of thing. But they had the side that most of the crew were in the saucer section, so hence why it's definitely a terrible catastrophe. But 2/3 of the crew did survive it, and pretty much everybody injured in some way or another. Whether that's sort of small, down to like small sprains and cuts and things and stuff. That's like, oh, that's not a big deal. We can carry on, and that all the way up to like the captain needing surgery and stuff like this.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think as you throughout the course of the day, and that as you and your teams and the engineering teams kind of explore the kind of general picture that you're getting of the state of the Nelson is that while obviously now that the orbit's been stabilized and there's repairs that can be made. In fact, that's what the Bond Pherea Johnny team had been sort of assigned to, was like, okay, well, we need to get things like thrusters and stuff back online so that they can at least maintain their own orbit and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Which
so they can kind of maneuver around a little bit.
Yeah, but realistically
but they're
speaking,
dead in the water.
Yeah, realistically speaking, they're not getting the impulse engines back online. The warp engines you're missing in the cell, that's not happening.
Yeah.
You can almost sort of say it can be stabilized. There can be repairs can be made, stuff can be brought back online. You can bring some power back online to kind of make it a little bit of a stationary sort of platform at this point.
Mm-hmm. Kind of like a space station almost.
Sort of, yeah. That kind of thing. Like it's not going to be able to be moved from where it is without being towed, though. Really.
Mm-hmm.
As I say, repairs can be made. A hole can be patched up, any leaks can be fixed and everything, but in general it's going to take a major refit of probably, based on your experience in Starfleet all this time, to get this ship back up to like proper working order, if it's even possible, would take many months of work.
Months in space dock. A whole new nacelle and everything.
Yeah,
that's not a small.
It's able to be made safe. That's what I want to say. It's able to be made safe, and a lot of a lot of bits in the saucer section are, like, while not in top shape, can be repaired fairly, in short order, sort of thing.
It can be habitable and usable. It's just it's not a ship.
It's not a ship at the moment. No, it's a bit of a wreck at the moment. So yeah, I think that this takes, most of that kind of first day, and it's it's a couple of hours of like the triaging and stuff and that, and then you and your teams as you're going through and checking everywhere for people, begin making these kind of assessments and stuff, and it sort of takes you most of the day, but you're able to kind of put together like a general picture of the whole sort of thing. I think again, like working with like engineering like Carter and that and things to kind of get a good picture of the state of things. And in general, though, the takeaway is like at the moment the expedition is down a ship, although they may have gained a space station.
Yeah, I'm imagining she's probably compiling this as a report and then reporting to the captain herself. It's quite a grim picture, really. Luckily, it could have been worse than it is.
Yeah, very lucky that the whole thing wasn't completely destroyed and lost with all hands. But also, not a great start.
In terms of having 3 ships, we are now down to 2 and a dead duck.
Yeah. Maybe you sort of sit in on the meeting between Captain Collins and Captain Karata of the Auckland. They both jointly get in contact using the newly deployed subspace buoys that the Auckland was dropping off as you were making the crossing. But not everything went, terribly. It should be stressed. Like, you guys are in the cluster, you have the subspace buoys have been placed, and you're able to place the first call from the cluster using these buoys directly to Deep Space 3 to Admiral Holt to update him on the situation. And I think there's mixed emotions, I think, would be a way of sort of saying this. It's like, things are calming down now with the the worst of the sort of rescue efforts, at least by the time this call is made. I think this would be a bit later on in the day, maybe sort of early evening time. It's definitely a somber mood, I think, in terms of, like, nobody wanted anybody to die at all, obviously, and this was a catastrophe that wasn't predicted and is terrible.
Would I be right in saying that it's probably the largest loss of life since the Dominion War?
I don't know if that's true.
Like, for one vessel? Or
maybe from a starship's destruction perspective, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. That's why I was kind of.
It's pretty big. It's like, well, the numbers, because it's a bit vague online with certain ship classes as to how much there are on the crew, but the number I managed to pull for the number of people on the California class, which is what the Auckland is 300 crew, and nearly 240 people died just on the Nelson. So, like, it's a big,
a big ship.
It's a big number it's a big loss. The Nelson and the Tenzing have similar sort of numbers of crew when they're fully crewed out.
It's probably the biggest loss of life of hands, like crew, on a ship outside of war or a battle situation.
Yeah, I mean, accidents have happened. I'm not saying there haven't been accidents, because we're a few years. And what year did the Dominion War end? 2375. So we're 3 years past the end of the war. So yeah, you might be right. This is kind of this is probably one of the first major losses of life in that time. I'm not saying there's none.
Outside war. Yeah.
I would have to go back through, like, Memory Alpha and look for, like, on the timeline for, like,
I just thought it was maybe just an extra detail.
No, I think you're accurate. Yeah, I think that does sound right. It's sort of this is a major loss, and
first expedition as well. Expedition as well.
Yeah, it's not a welcome start to the expedition. However, and I think the appropriate sort of sympathies are, and Admiral Holt.
It is an expedition.
Yeah,
that's the thing. They're dangerous. Captain Scott said, we took risks. We knew we were taking them, and things have come out against us. Therefore, we have no reason to complain.
Yeah, of course. I think it is a big shock, though. I mean, like I said, this was, you're not inaccurate in what you're saying. This is a large loss of life. And I think Admiral Holt, at this point, he just asked Captain Collins to pass on a brief message of sympathy to Captain Richards, with the promise of a more personal conversation when she is able. I think what's happened with the Nelson is pretty much the main subject of the call. However, there is still acknowledgement of, like, but you've made it into the cluster. This is the furthest anybody from Starfleet has made it into the cluster in any kind of living memory, and we've managed to get the start of some logistics put in place with these subspace buoys on the in the gateway. So hopefully any travel through it is going to be a lot easier now, and we can make calls in and out. So it's not a complete failure. You've made the crossing. despite the hardship and horrendous loss of life, you are now there, and moving forward from this disaster, hopefully with an eye towards successes rather than more failures on the horizon. What are the next steps of the expedition going to be? Alright, that's going to do it for today's episode. We'll be back in 2 weeks' time on Thursday, August 29th for the next chapter of Frontier, and we hope you'll all join us for that. In the meantime, you can head to pretendingwithdice.com. There's links there to all of our online presences, including our social media pages, our merch store, our Discord server, our Ko-Fi page, and much, much more. So yeah, for now, that's our show. We hope you all enjoyed it. See you next time.